So what if a company found like a glitch in the financial system? A real-life infinite money loop that just uses debt to stack up a whole new kind of asset, and it just compounds like crazy? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're talking about Strategy Incorporated, ticker MSTR, and what is, without a doubt, one of the wildest, most high-stakes bets you'll find in finance today.
Welcome to Value Vest Daily, where we deep dive into the best value and momentum investment opportunities.
All right, let's get right into it. What if you could own Bitcoin, but on steroids? I'm talking about getting that exposure with leverage, but, and this is the key part, without the fear of margin calls. Imagine a vehicle that's literally designed from the ground up to scoop up more and more Bitcoin for every single share you own. Well, that, in a nutshell, is the incredible promise of MSTR. So here's what we've got on tap for today. First, we're going to unpack what MSTR actually is. Then, we'll break down this so-called infinite money engine. After that, we'll dive into the hard numbers, see who's behind the wheel, and finally, we'll look at some, well, let's just say some very interesting future price targets. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, MSTR, the Bitcoin rocket. We're about to deconstruct what is easily Wall Street's most aggressive bet on digital gold.
So, what exactly is Strategy Incorporated? Well, first things first, you gotta forget about their old software business. That's not the story anymore. Today, they call themselves a Bitcoin development company. And for you, the investor, it basically acts like a leveraged Bitcoin ETF on overdrive. They use every single tool in the corporate finance playbook for one reason and one reason only, to aggressively stack as much Bitcoin as they possibly can.
And this right here, this is the company's moat. It's their big competitive advantage. The best way to think about it is like a financial black hole for Bitcoin. Seriously, once BTC gets into its orbit, it gets pulled in and it pretty much never leaves. It just adds to the total mass, which in turn makes that gravitational pull even stronger, sucking in even more Bitcoin. It's a powerful idea.
Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work? That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, that brings us right to our next section. The infinite money engine. We're going to break down exactly how this self-reinforcing flywheel operates. The crazy thing is, the concept is actually pretty simple when you break it down. It all starts with step 1. They raise a bunch of capital, usually with really low-cost debt. Step 2. They take every last cent of that money and buy Bitcoin. Step 3. As Bitcoin's price goes up, MSTR's stock price usually goes up even more. And that leads to step 4. That higher stock price lets them go out and raise even more capital, cheaper than before. And then what do? They just repeat, over and over again.
So where does the fuel for this engine come from? Well, they've got two main ways to get it. The first is just selling common stock. It's simple, but it can dilute existing shareholders, right? Each share becomes a slightly smaller slice of the pie. But here's the real secret sauce, their use of preferred stock. This is the game changer. It lets them raise billions, literally billions of dollars, with very little, if any, immediate dilution for the common stockholders. This is what lets them keep buying Bitcoin aggressively, no matter if the market is soaring or dipping.
Okay, so that's the theory. That's how it's supposed to work. Now let's look at what this machine is actually producing in the real world. Time for Section 3, Fueled by the Numbers.
Just take a second and look at this number. We're talking about a projection of almost 650,000 Bitcoin held by late 2025. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that's more than 3% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist. One company.
And what's the dollar value of that mountain of Bitcoin? A jaw-dropping $61.5 billion. Make no mistake, this number is what drives the entire valuation of the company.
But listen, for an investor, this next number is the one that really truly matters. Satoshis per share. Think about it. Even though MSTR is constantly issuing new shares to raise money, their strategy is so aggressive that the amount of Bitcoin backing up every single share has actually been going up. They're literally outrunning their own dilution. Their target is something like 30% growth in Bitcoin per share every year. It's incredible.
Now, if you try to analyze MSTR using the old-school playbook, you're going to get confused, fast. Your return on equity? It's all over the place, because it's just a reflection of Bitcoin's price. The debt-to-equity ratio? It's high. Yeah, but that's the whole point. Leverage is a feature, not a bug in this strategy. And the free cash flow from that old software business? It's not huge, but it is absolutely critical. It's the stable foundation that pays the bills and keeps the lights on so the Bitcoin engine can just keep on running.
All right, so who else is riding this rocket ship with us? And what are the charts telling us right now? Let's dive into Section 4, Ownership and Technicals.
So if you look at who owns the stock, it's pretty clear this isn't just a retail play. Not at all. Institutions hold about 55% of the company. And we're not talking small shops here. We're talking heavy hitters like the Canada Pension Plan, Vanguard. These guys have been building their positions, which, you have to admit, lends some serious credibility to the whole thing.
Now, if we pull up the charts from late 2025, the technical picture is interesting. On one hand, the stock is deep in what we call oversold territory, and it's bouncing off a key support level. But on the other hand, it's trading way below its key moving averages, which is a pretty bearish signal. So what you've got here is a classic battleground setting up between the bulls and the bears.
And that, my friends, brings us to the final section, the one I know you've all been waiting for. It's time for Section 5, Moonshot. Let's project the absolutely insane future potential of this Bitcoin engine.
Okay, let's be crystal clear. These price targets depend completely on Bitcoin continuing its bull run. But let's play this out. If Bitcoin gets back to, say, $150,000, analysts are seeing MSTR somewhere between $425 and $700. Now, stretch that out 3 to 5 years. If Bitcoin goes absolutely parabolic towards $500,000 or even $1 million, well, then the price targets for MSTR stocks start to get into the thousands per share.
And just to put that into perspective, what we're talking about here, based on those Bitcoin prices, is a projected market cap for MSTR of $200 to $500 billion, or even more, by 2030. That is just a mind-boggling jump from where it sits today.
So what does that actually mean for you, the investor? Let's make it real. In the bull case we've been talking about, a $10,000 investment today could potentially turn into more than $150,000 inside of 5 years. The upside leverage here is just immense.
But, and this is a huge but, that leverage is a brutal double-edged sword. You have to understand the risks here. That same force that can rocket your returns to the moon on the way up will crush you just as fast on the way down. The engine needs constant fuel, which means dilution is a perpetual risk. Obviously, the number one risk is a big Bitcoin crash. That would blow up the whole thesis. And you also have regulatory threats, and the risk that the stock's premium to its Bitcoin value just collapses, wiping out its main advantage.
And of course, that brings us to the disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Everything we've talked about today is for informational and entertainment purposes only. You absolutely have to do your own research before you even think about making an investment decision. Okay?
So, what's the verdict? Is MSTR really an infinite money glitch, or is it just a ticking time bomb? That really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? If you want to keep exploring questions like this, please subscribe, like, and share Value Vest Daily so you can catch all of our unbiased daily deep dives before you put your money to work. Thanks for tuning in.